Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt strangely alone? Conversations are happening, laughter fills the room, and yet something inside you remains distant. You respond, you listen, you participate, but the connection never fully reaches you. It's a strange kind of emptiness, because from the outside, everything looks normal. You're not isolated, you're not rejected, and yet something feels missing. Over time, this feeling can make you question yourself. Why do others seem comfortable in these moments while you feel disconnected? But this experience is more common than it appears. Feeling empty around people often has little to do with the number of people in your life and much more to do with the depth of the connection you experience with them. You're emotionally disconnected from yourself. Sometimes the reason you feel empty around people has very little to do with them. The distance actually begins inside you. When life becomes busy, stressful, or overwhelming, many people slowly lose contact with their own emotions. Days start to revolve around responsibilities, routines, and constant mental noise. Work needs attention, messages demand replies, problems require solutions. In this constant movement, there is rarely space to pause and ask a simple question. What am I actually feeling right now? Over time, the mind becomes so focused on functioning that it stops processing emotions in a conscious way. Feelings are pushed aside in order to keep moving forward. This creates a subtle form of internal disconnection. When you are no longer fully aware of your own emotional state, it becomes difficult to bring genuine presence into social interactions. You may talk to people, laugh at jokes, respond politely, yet something inside you remains quiet and distant. The Stoics often emphasized self-awareness as the foundation of a balanced life. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to examine his own thoughts and feelings before reacting to the world around him. Without that inner awareness, a person can move through life almost mechanically, responding to situations without truly experiencing them. Imagine trying to listen to music while wearing headphones that mute most of the sound. The melody is technically there, but you cannot fully hear it. Emotional disconnection works in a similar way. When you are not fully connected to your own feelings, interactions with others lose depth. The emptiness you feel around people is not always caused by them. Sometimes it reflects the quiet distance that has developed between you and your own inner world. Conversations stay on the surface. Another reason you may feel empty around people is that many social interactions never move beyond the surface. Most conversations revolve around safe, predictable topics: work, daily routines, small complaints, casual humor. These exchanges are comfortable and socially acceptable, but they rarely create a sense of real understanding between people. They maintain interaction without creating true connection. When someone is searching for depth, these conversations can start to feel strangely hollow. You may sit in a group, listen to the discussion, and realize that nothing being said actually touches anything meaningful inside you. It is not that the people around you are uninteresting or that the conversation is wrong. It is simply that the interaction never reaches a level where genuine thoughts, fears, or values are shared. The Stoics valued meaningful dialogue because it allowed people to examine life together and refine their understanding of the world. Without that depth, conversation becomes a kind of social ritual rather than an exchange of inner experience. Imagine standing in shallow water, where your feet barely touch the surface. You are technically in the ocean, but you never feel the depth beneath you. Many social interactions work the same way. They keep you near others, yet they never allow the connection to reach a place where you feel truly engaged. Over time, this can create a quiet sense of isolation, even in crowded rooms. You speak, you listen, but nothing resonates deeply enough to make you feel seen or understood. The emptiness you experience is not necessarily caused by the presence of people, but by the absence of meaningful connection within the interaction itself. You feel like you can't be your true self. Sometimes, the emptiness you feel around people comes from the quiet pressure to adjust who you are in order to fit in. In many social environments, people instinctively adapt their behavior to match what feels acceptable or expected. You might soften certain opinions, hide parts of your personality, or avoid expressing thoughts that seem too different or too personal. This happens so naturally that you may not even notice it at first. On the surface, everything appears smooth. The conversation flows, people laugh, interactions seem normal. But internally, something feels slightly misaligned. The version of you that others are interacting with is not completely the real one. When this pattern continues over time, a subtle distance begins to form. People are connecting with the role you are playing, not the deeper person behind it. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of living in accordance with one's true nature, rather than constantly seeking approval from others. When actions are guided primarily by external acceptance, a person can gradually lose the sense of authenticity that makes interactions meaningful. Imagine wearing a mask that helps you move comfortably through a crowd. It protects you from judgment, but it also prevents anyone from seeing your real expression. Humans naturally crave connection with others, but that connection requires authenticity to exist. Without it, interactions remain functional but emotionally hollow. You may find yourself surrounded by people and still feel unseen, not because others are unwilling to connect, but because the part of you that longs for connection has remained hidden. You don't feel understood. One of the deepest human needs is the feeling of being understood. Not just heard, but truly seen. The sense that another person recognizes your thoughts, your experiences, and the way you see the world. When that recognition is missing, interactions can start to feel strangely empty. You may talk, share opinions, and participate in conversations, yet still feel as if something important is not reaching the other person. This often happens when your inner world becomes more complex than the conversations around you allow. You might think about things more deeply, reflect more, or question ideas that others take for granted. When you try to express these thoughts, they may be misunderstood, dismissed, or simplified. After enough experiences like this, many people begin to share less. Not because they have nothing to say, but because explaining themselves repeatedly becomes exhausting. The Stoics believe that meaningful companionship comes from people who challenge and refine your thinking, rather than ignore it. Without that kind of exchange, conversations can feel repetitive and empty. Imagine speaking a language that no one else in the room fully understands. People might respond politely, but the deeper meaning of what you say never truly lands. Over time, this creates a quiet sense of isolation, even in the middle of a group. You are physically present, yet mentally distant. This does not necessarily mean that the people around you are incapable of understanding, but simply that the right kind of connection has not yet formed. Feeling misunderstood can make the world feel smaller and lonelier, even when you are surrounded by others. You're searching for deeper connection. Sometimes the emptiness you feel around people is not a problem to fix, but a signal of what you truly need. As people grow and reflect more deeply on their lives, their expectations for connection often change. Casual interaction, small talk, and temporary entertainment may no longer feel satisfying in the way they once did. What you begin to crave instead is something more meaningful. Conversations that explore ideas, relationships that allow honesty, and moments where you feel fully present with another person. When those kinds of connections are missing, ordinary social environments can start to feel strangely hollow. It may seem as though everyone else is comfortable with surface-level interaction, while you are quietly searching for something deeper. The Stoics believed that true friendship was rare and valuable precisely because it required shared values, trust, and intellectual companionship. Without these elements, interaction remains pleasant but incomplete. Imagine standing in a crowded room where everyone is talking, yet none of the conversations reach the level of depth you are hoping for. You are not rejecting people, and you are not incapable of connection. You are simply aware that the type of connection you seek is different from what is being offered. This awareness can create temporary loneliness, but it also reflects growth. Wanting deeper connection means that your mind and emotions are seeking relationships built on authenticity rather than convenience. Over time, this search often leads to fewer but more meaningful relationships. The emptiness you feel is not necessarily a sign that you do not belong. It may be the first step toward discovering where and with whom you truly do.